What's up, everybody? How we doing here? What's going on, everyone? What do we got? Friday, November 15th, 12:30 PST right now. Hope everyone's had a good week and hope everyone is going to have a good weekend. But here we are, YouTube Live, guys. YouTube Live. If you guys are watching this, I would love to, if you guys are watching this live, I would love to hear from you guys in the chat section. If you're watching this live, I would love to hear from you guys in the chat section. What is going on? How are we doing? Today, we're going to be talking about women making the first move, which obviously just at the surface seems like a very, whoa, like what the fuck does that really mean? But obviously, there's a lot of more depth and sort of nuance to this. This is a lot of actually what I teach in my Ravish program, which I ran my sort of 1.0 version last summer. And I'll be running another group sometime in 2025. Haven't really decided yet. But so we're going to be talking about women making the first move. What does that look like? What's sort of the nuance and the energetics behind it? Because obviously, like at face value, you kind of hear that. You're like, what the fuck does that mean? Women make the first in an up part of the wave. There we go, Robin, in an up part of the wave. That's good. There's a lot of waves moving in and out right now, you guys. So from an energetic standpoint, yeah, it is a lot of like oceanic waves, if you think about it, right? Where different waves come, you kind of move that through, washes to the shore, and then another wave comes. Just before we get into it, yeah, this week for me has been more up beginning to come, more sort of up parts are beginning to come through. It's been a little bit back and forth, but there's been more positive trajectory than other weeks. So it's beginning to be a little bit more positive on that front. So anyone watching this, like I mentioned, we're going to be talking about women making the first move. What does this sort of look like? And this is basically coming after an Instagram post that I did a couple days ago that just read, yeah, it was 2 days ago that I wrote this. The feminine always makes the first move. The feminine code always goes first. The feminine job is to inspire the hunter. And so this, for the most part, was like a resounding, everyone's like, oh yeah, like I totally agree with this. Like I totally agree. Then there was a small number of people who were completely confused by it and or very strongly didn't agree with it. Because again, if you take that statement at face value, you're like, women always make the first move. And obviously our immediate thing is like thinking about this woman like pursuing a guy, like very aggressively pursuing a guy, which if you think about that, right, that's obviously not going to be what you would want as a woman or a guy. But that's what I think a lot of people would interpret that sort of post or that sort of statement at. Women always make the first move. And the best way to explain it, you guys, which I talked about in my post, is basically, if you think about the most sort of superficial setting, right? The most of the surface without any sort of depth scenario, you think about like two people at a bar or two people at like some sort of social gathering. And I'll just speak to this from being a guy and from talking to my guys about this over and over of what really happens. And when I was younger, I used to be really into I used to write a lot about what did I used to write about? What's that word when it comes? It's like the pickup culture. Anyways, I'm drawing a blank, but I used to write a lot about like desire and it was seduction. Seduction was the word that I was looking for. And so I used to write about seduction for like men's magazines when I was in my 20s. And I used to talk about not pickup culture, but sort of the game and play of dating and attraction and desire, which in a lot of ways is kind of polarity in a lot of different ways. And so the basic surface setting of like a woman and a guy at the bar, what the guy is actually looking for is the guy's looking for some type of real sort of subtle invitation, right? I mean, the most common one is that you keep making eye contact. And there are some guys that won't even look for that sort of subtle invitation. They'll just march right up to women. And these are guys that are usually not clued into any sort of nuance. They don't really give a shit. Maybe they're really drunk, or they're just really, really aggressive, and they're not very perceptive. They're not very sort of attuned to the energy. And so in the most sort of surface situation, a guy is looking for some type of subtle invitation. A little hair flip. She's playing with her hair. She's applying lip gloss. Keep making eye contact. Just an energy that you feel, a real sort of subtle energy, right? And so that basically sort of prompts the guy to approach her, to move into the space, to go over with a buddy or go over with a couple buddies and talk to their group of friends, right? So in the most sort of subtle, or sorry, the most sort of surface scenario, the guy is looking for some type of invitation. So even in that scenario, if the guy's the first one to approach, the woman still actually made the first move. So basically non-verbally saying, come over and talk to me. I want to talk to you, right? So she actually initiates that approach by him at the very, and so it becomes this sort of thing where a guy's looking, and it usually won't be something explicit, but something really, really subtle. And a guy is looking for something really subtle that he can move off of. Again, sometimes guys is like march up to women and approach them. I was never that guy when I was young and in my 20s and sort of approaching women. But some guys, again, they just fucking just approach women just out of nowhere. But guys are looking for that subtle sort of invitation. So that's a very subtle microcosm of a bigger thing that we're talking about here. A bigger thing that we're talking about here. So for one, a place that this actually stems from, a lot of this, is the feminine code goes first. Really what that means is that women are going to be more emotionally and spiritually evolved than men. If you think about just the sort of trajectory of sort of self-development and wellness and working on yourself and being spiritually inclined for so long, and still now, this is something where women are sort of leading the charge in this, and for a lot of biological reasons. And so this is why the feminine code goes first, right? And if you think about like an awakening path, when you move into an awakening journey, what you want to do is you want to descend through the feminine and then you ascend through the masculine. So you descend through the feminine, which means you're descending into your body, which means you're sort of cleansing and clearing the foundation. If you're working with the heart chakra, you're cleansing the palette of the heart chakra. And so the energy is descending. And so when you even just think of an awakening journey, the feminine code in many ways comes before the masculine code, because you think about it like this, right? The feminine code is kind of cleansing the palate internally. It's purging all of the grief. It's thinking about the foundation that everything holds upon, right? It's pulling out the rotten roots. It's dealing with the deep sort of ancestral energy. And then once you sort of descend through that feminine code or that feminine energy, now you can activate and create, right? You can take maybe the oracle guidance or your relationship to source and spirit to be able to actually move forward and create something, which is more of a masculine energetic, which is, okay, the feminine say, I've cleared the foundation. And the masculine energetic is very much, I'm going to build this house. I'm going to build this structure on top of this foundation that has been cleared. And so if you think about someone's healing journey in general, it's very much a feminine code comes first and the masculine code comes second. When someone really goes through a deep awakening process, it's descending into the body and clearing the body, and then essentially taking what we have learned and cultivated in sort of the internal landscape to now be able to create something from that more of a feminine integration, feminine energetic. This is the same reason why if I were to look at a man's healing and growth trajectory, what I would actually say is that he should spend 2 years, even 3 years, not even worrying about men's work, not even worrying about any sort of masculine healing. And he should just do somatic therapy. He should just do body work. He should just do more feminine, energetic type healing, more soft, more gentle, more nuanced, energetic healing that works in his body. And the goal of this would be to work with his nervous system, to be able to build a better relationship with his emotions, to be able to ultimately purge and cleanse his vessel and his body, to be able to purge and cleanse his vessel and his body. Then once that man had done that, I would say, go do a ton of masculine integration. Go do the men's circles. Go do the men's groups. Go do everything which is more of like worrying about your structure, worrying about your discipline, worrying about your accountability, worrying about building systems, worrying about the power of your word, right? So if I were to tell a guy and how to heal, and this relates to what we're talking about, it would actually be to move into his feminine code and then his masculine code, to do a feminine descent and then a masculine ascent. So then what would happen is by the time that guy went to do more of the masculine integration or more of the masculine sort of linear work, what would happen is that his foundation would be pretty clear. Obviously, we're always going to have shit that we're working on, but his root, his foundation, he would have worked with some of his deeper trauma. So not only is he going to have more capacity and space for his masculine energy, but he's going to now be building a house from a very sort of purged and cleansed foundation. So much of the problem is that men go immediately into like a masculine house creation without dealing with any of the foundational stuff at the forefront, right? Because you go do a men's group or a men's circle, it's going to be great for a lot of things, but it's not going to be great for dealing with the root of your trauma. It's not going to be great for dealing with any of your trauma. And so essentially what you do is you build a masculine house atop of shaky foundation. This is where you have like really boring men's teachers, very serious, very mechanical. It doesn't feel organic. It doesn't feel soul driven. And these are the type of men that aren't going to be able to liberate the feminine oracle because they're going to feel clunky to some degree because they didn't get the feminine code first. And so what happens just generally in healing is the feminine code goes first. The masculine code comes second. If you were to look, guys, at the collective sort of frequency right now, so much of what is been happening is the feminine code has been sort of leading, and now there's going to be a lot of masculine and divine masculines that are beginning to catch up with a lot of sort of this feminine oracle evolution that's been happening. This is the same reason why you look in a relationship, and one of the biggest complaints of women is, how do I get my man to do the work? How do I get my man to spiritually meet me? How do I get a man that is as powerful as me energetically, emotionally, and spiritually? How do I get a man to my level? How do I get him to do the work? And so this pain point of women is basically a revelation of sort of this feminine code and this masculine code, right? Because ultimately what a woman really wants is she wants a man who's in his masculine, but he's also very potently and deeply connected to his feminine as well. He has a masculine essence, and that is still dominant in his body, in his space, but he's very cultivated in his feminine, or else she's not able to be seen, heard, or understood, right? So that's ultimately what she's wanting. And so the pain point of women of how do I get a man to do the work, right? How do I get a man to do the work? What this creates, and this is going to be really, really nuanced in this place of how do I get a man to do the work? What it leads to is women severing, contracting, and conceding some aspect of their power, some aspect of their oracle nature. You know, maybe a woman has a potential to be this crazy, potent sort of medicine woman who can tap into other dimensions, but she has this sort of scarcity belief with men that I can't move into this sort of potent nature within myself, because then a man will never meet me. I'll put myself into territory of being totally obsolete. Maybe I'll be in my power, but I'll never be able to have a relationship or a man that can meet me there. And one thing I think women need to know is that more and more men are coming into these divine masculine codes right now. More and more men are coming into these divine masculine codes, but what it took is a man descending through his feminine first. So essentially, when a man descends through his feminine foundation, what he's doing is he's tearing the house down, bulldozing the house down. He's ripping up all the roots. He's replanting soil. And then as he moves more into the masculine code, he begins to build the house, which is really building his kingdom, the structures and systems for the life that he wants to create. This space where a woman will really feel like she has something to step into. He has certain things going for him. He's established certain funnels, certain sort of things in his life that she really feels like she has something that she's showing up for, right? Okay, so coming back to the female pain point of how do I get a guy to do the work? Well, one, it's about trusting that men are coming into their code. You don't ever get the man to do the work. You don't ever get the man to do the work. And again, this comes down to inspiring him. The job of the feminine is to inspire the masculine. The job of the feminine is to inspire the masculine. And so when women feel that a man will never meet them, it leads to her contracting and severing some part of her oracle nature, and then she probably will choose a less powerful man, because we're going to choose the manifestation of how we're showing up. So if a woman's an oracle, but she contracts and concedes aspects of her power out of scarcity and fear, ancestral limitations that her body's holding, she's going to now choose a man through her own internal contraction. She's going to be like this guy. And it's going to be a manifestation, a representation that she's contracted and conceded some part of her oracle. And so maybe this guy will be able to meet her in certain ways, but he won't be able to enliven and expand the oracle in her, the deepest parts of her being, the deepest parts of her longing. And so this is one of the biggest things that leads to at the heart of pain point with women relationally. They'll never find a man to meet them, but what's actually happened is they chose a man through an internal contraction. Women chose a man before they ultimately became the oracle. And when a woman chooses a man through some contraction of her oracle, she's choosing a man from some aspect of her own internal self-repression or self-suppression. And then she exists in this relationship and she's happy enough, but she's not ravished. She's not devoured. There's some aspect of her soul that's disconnected to herself that she doesn't really feel that she's able to bring to this relationship. And what happens is this is so much of the resentment of women moving into relationship saying, he can't meet me. But what happens is there's a lack of accountability with women saying, he can't meet me, but I actually chose him. I chose this situation karmically, energetically, emotionally. And so whatever you're getting, you chose and you knew what it was right from the beginning. You knew what it was right from the beginning. Sometimes people grow and they shift, they change and they evolve and grow out of a relationship. But she chose this at the beginning. And so there has to be this internal accountability within a woman saying, I chose this man for my own fear, for my own scarcity. And I've talked about this on podcasts, that this is what happens with women a lot. A lot of the resentment of women is that they don't feel seen and heard. But what happened is they chose their relationship and they picked a partner from some severing of their own internal capacity to see themselves. So what that means is maybe they started to move into their power, it freaked them out, they shut it down, or maybe they just haven't even ever moved into their power. They haven't really ever moved into their potential. And so resentment gets misplaced and disproportionately placed on men, right? Because the collective wound of women is I'm not seen, I'm not heard. Women have an ancient, vast soul, and they want it to be seen and heard. And this fuels the collective masculine wound that whatever he does is not enough. And so the first step in this process, and this is why I say this brings it around, you guys, to the post of and the purpose of this live is that women always make the first move. The biggest problem in relationships is that women have historically never made the first move. That's the problem why we have a disharmony with masculine and feminine energy. That's the problem. That's at the base. That's at the core root. Women have historically never made the first move. And this is why polarity has ultimately been really, really fucked up. This is ultimately why that resentment, why countless women are asking coaches and teachers, how do I get my man to do the work? What she's really saying is that I chose a partner from my own internal contraction, suppression, and fear. What she's choosing is I chose from a place of disowning my own power. That's ultimately what she's saying when she asked that question. How do I get my guy to be more powerful? How do I get my guy to be more evolved? When women have a complaint about a man meeting them, men are not the problem. It's where a woman is choosing from. And this is where women are disproportionately projecting an expectation for men to make the first move whilst they're not actually in their power. So when a woman expects a man to make the first move, she's not actually in her power. She's in a projection. She's in what we could call the wounded feminine, or like a really, really surface feminine. This is at the base of polarity problems. And so when we talk about the feminine code coming first, is that most polarity relationships, that feminine code hasn't really come first. And so what that sort of looks like is a woman claims the full spectrum of her power and is able to stand on a ledge. A woman chooses the full spectrum of her power and she stands on a ledge. I hear a lot of women saying, why aren't men pursuing me? And what I will say is that software update coming, fuck you. Sorry, guys, I'm right in the middle of this. It's like God being, Jamie, I can't handle what's moving through you. What the fuck was I just saying? So, guys, I totally forget what I was saying. What this looks like is the feminine code going first. So she moves into her oracle. She moves into her oracle, meaning she claims the full totality of her power and she stands on a ledge. Okay, now I remember. And so a lot of women after I wrote that post asked me, I'm really attractive and men tell me I'm attractive, but men aren't pursuing me. And so this is a really, really nuanced thing. So we're attractive women. Men tell me I'm attractive. Why are they not pursuing me? It's because men are responding to everything at a non-verbal level, right? So you're an attractive woman. Why aren't men responding to me? So men are responding to the feminine body. Men are responding to the feminine body. And I don't mean at a surface level, her body. What I mean is the deep, energetic body, right? So what men, whether they know it consciously or not, are feeling into the receptivity of her body. They're feeling into the feminine energy of her body. For example, to make this a little, to ground it, what men are really feeling into is how open is her heart, right? So when women have a lot of heart chakra blocks, They have real challenges being vulnerable. A man is sensing that. And so he feels a guarding in her space. He feels a closure. When men feel that, they are turned off. When men feel that, they aren't inspired to pursue. They're like, ugh. They're like, what's really happening is that woman is in whatever way, she's not sending a clear signal. Her energy sort of like this. What also might happen is that a woman might be holding a body where it feels like she's really starving herself. I don't mean starving herself with food. I mean starving herself. She is not nourishing her body and frame. You know, this is where, say, women live in hyper forms of discipline and go, and it feels a little frazzled. Like energetically, a man is not feeling into this innate capacity for her to devour, love, and nourish her body. He feels a restrictive nature to her own relationship with her body. He's picking up on these. And an unconscious man is even picking up on these things, but he wouldn't be able to put it into words. But he'd be feeling it at a biological level. And so this is very much a biological response. It's very much a pheromone elicitation. This is why when like a man is like not inspired to pursue a woman, again, appearance is subjective, but he's responding to her emotional feminine body, right? And what that really, really means is that she's really in a receptive, open, vulnerable, radiant, gracious, feminine energy. And she's able to hold open that level of vulnerability. If you think about a man's version of vulnerability is his capacity to penetrate, to be a leader, to pursue and to lead when he can't feel anyone's energy but himself. And he's being direct in a space where he doesn't have any self-assurance. He's being direct in a space where he doesn't have any self-assurance. That's what turns a woman on. He's authentic, he's direct, he stands in his convictions, he has strong opinions, he's grounded, he's clear about who he is, he takes action and he executes on his own version of a ledge, right? When you think about a man who's pursuing his dreams and he's being fucking direct and he's telling you, this is fucking who I am. This is who I am. That's what turns you on. That's what draws you into his masculine energy. That's what leads to you wanting to give the energetic version of I'm putting lip gloss on. The energetic version of I'm putting lip gloss on, right? And so often women will think that they're open and they're not, right? Their body, how they hold their body energetically will feel masculine. And if the way a woman holds her body energetically is masculine, a guy is going to be turned off. He's going to see you. He might think you're attractive, but he's not going to be inspired to pursue you at a biological level. And so, for example, like what does this tangibly mean? I would say really the biggest thing with a woman is going to be her heart chakra, her womb, and her face. Her heart, her womb, and her face. That there is a inviting softness to her face. There's an inviting softness in her face. Her heart feels open and vulnerable. I'm not saying it means that she's exposed and doesn't have boundaries, but she's loving. Like when I talk to a woman and she doesn't feel like fucking loving and open, and I feel more open and loving than her, my whole body is just ugh. And that she's in her womb. That you really, really feel. And when a woman's in her womb, it means she's grounded. Just like when a guy is in his cock energy, it means he's grounded. When a woman is in her womb, it means she's grounded in her feminine energy. And so the same way, so what biologically leads to a woman moving towards a certain masculine energy? It's his capacity to declare who he is on a ledge. What biologically draws a man to a woman is when she stands on a ledge of the openness of her feminine form. Meaning that when a woman can't feel anything around her, She's in her true, innate, divine nature at a fully cellular, vibrational, embodied level. So the masculine is responding to her body. Does that make sense? The masculine is responding to her body and her face, but he's taking in the full spectrum of her body, and he's asking myself, how inspired am I by her feminine form? How inspired am I by her feminine form? What he wants to see is he wants to look at you and he wants to see God. He wants to look at you and he wants to see the divine. In the same way, you want to look at a man in his own ledge and be like, oh, he's a gladiator, or he's a warrior, or he's a king, or he's God. You know, we want to be able to see a code in the other, right? And so what we're surveying is we're trying to look to see if there's a code, if there's a manifestation or a representation of the divine, right? And so biologically, because of how women's bodies are programmed, that's why the feminine code goes first. This is why women make the first move. In sort of, if you imagined the tapestry of the universe, say we were trying to complete puzzles to open a key in the universe, God would say the feminine oracle comes first and the masculine oracle or the masculine energy comes second. Because women biologically are the representation of everything living and breathing in the divine. And then what happens is men are inspired from everything living, breathing as the divine to now use that as a muse to execute structure and creation on earth. And anything that is structurally created on earth is done so through an organic construct of both masculine and feminine energy. This is why when a guy creates his business, it's half the feminine, half the masculine. And this is why the most powerful divine masculine men actually descended into their feminine energy first and then found masculine creation. The feminine code always goes first. And so when women engage in that relationship to source and God, it is the spiritual version of applying lip gloss. It's the spiritual version of applying lip gloss. It's the spiritual version of twirling your hair. What the guy is surveying is, can her feminine form open into absolute openness, unknown, and nothingness? What that means is, what's that woman's relationship to love in the unknown? What's that woman's relationship to her radiance in the unknown? In the same way that you want a man to be able to execute in the unknown, he's going to look at how's her capacity to open in the unknown. What's the man's capacity to take action, to execute, to lead in the unknown is the same thing he's looking for in the woman. To what's her capacity to open her womb, her heart, her face, her radiance, her feminine essence in the unknown. That's what he's looking at. That's what he's truly, truly looking at. And so this sort of nuanced exchange is what's happening in the beginning of a healthy polarity relationship, conscious relationship, sacred union, where divine masculine, divine feminine codes can be unlocked within one another. But the feminine code always goes first at a universal level. And the exact same way why women have been more evolved than men, why women have stepped into this spiritual nature, it's because biologically they're more primed to that connection through their body. They're more primed to that connection through their body. But the real, at the heart of it, the reason why this has ended in so much relational dissatisfaction is that women haven't been able to go first and stand on the ledge of their vulnerability and openness because of the fear that a man would never be able to meet them, and a fear that they'd be all alone. And most women never really truly face that fear out of scarcity of timelines of wanting to have kids, not wanting to be alone, wanting to have a family, all these real things, but they can't really confront that fear. And so in turn, what happens, the woman doesn't actually make the first move. And now polarity gets all fucked up in that connection. It gets all fucked up. and resentment begins to creep in. But women are ultimately resenting men from the fact that they weren't able to open into the abyss all on their own. It's the same thing that happens when a man moves into a relationship and he resents a woman because he hasn't been able to complete aspects of his kingdom and his mission. Then all of a sudden they get pregnant, they have kids, he has to be a father, he has no space. He holds resentment to that woman because he's never been able to pursue that creative passion project. He's never been able to build that business. He wasn't able to establish his masculine energy and essence in the unknown in a way that made him feel really good. So he felt really intentional about bringing a woman into that space. This is why men need to feel their cock to a certain degree of kind of fucking shit up in the world a little bit, at least a little bit, before they even bring a woman in, right? And that's where the masculine resentment comes. And he sees her as the point of resentment for why he never felt like he was good enough, right? And then she's like, well, you can't open me enough. And he's like, well, you nag on me all the time. And so it's creating from this contraction. And what really happened is neither person really stepped into their code. The woman didn't open and surrender to God. And so it requires both men and women to open to God first. Like that is the basis of sacred union. You have to really fully open to God completely, individually through your masculine energy, individually through your feminine energy. And then you come together and can actually create this harmonious divine masculine polarity energy. But what a man is asking, is there enough of God living through her body that I could be inspired in my mission? And so the size of a woman's oracle is always trying to work proportionally to the size of a man's mission, right? So the biggest thing that in terms of sacred union that a real feminine oracle needs to do is move into her oracle, move into the full expression of her power without severing a fucking inch. And then she has to weigh it out and observe a man and be like, is his path, his God-anointed mission, is it big enough for the power that I know that lives in me? And then what he's asking himself, men who have really big missions are then going to vet, is the feminine form living through her body, is that powerful enough for the size of the mission that I know that I have? This is exactly what's happening in the vetting process, right? In the vetting process. But what happens is that we start from this place where the women haven't allowed themselves to be oracles. And when a woman hasn't allowed herself to be an oracle, she's vetting from attachment, from fear, from scarcity. She's not vetting from the totality of her power. She's not vetting from like a God point of observation. And neither is he. And so it becomes this place of choosing through a contraction. It becomes this place of choosing through a contraction. But the first step, and I know women don't want to hear this, is a woman has to open her feminine body when there is no man there. A woman has to open her feminine body when there is no man there, when all there is God. And what he's looking for, what like a powerful sovereign masculine energy is looking for, can she open and be in a luscious feminine form in that open space? Like, you know, some women who are powering through their day and they're rushed, they're dysregulating their system. They're always busy. They don't rest. They don't take care of themselves. And they feel sort of rigid in their energy or repressed or closed or held back or restrained or resentful or not giving in certain ways. And men are picking up on that. And they won't pursue it. They won't pursue that energy. They'll be turned off. And the more that a man moves into his masculine, the more he's going to feel that energetically in a woman. And again, what has to happen here, and this doesn't ever mean that like a woman can't start a conversation with a guy. This doesn't mean that a woman can't approach a man. It doesn't mean that, but it means that a woman has to be able to draw her energy back enough that she doesn't move into his space, that she's able to stay in her space, right? So ultimately, what a woman has to be able to do is show a man enough interest through her feminine form where she kind of fucks with him a little bit. She plays with him, she toys with him. And women that really have strong feminine energy and feminine essence know they can do that. Men love that. They love that. And you kind of toy with him, and you need to give him a reason to inspire you. And so often what's happening is women are waiting around for men to pursue them, but what they're holding in their body is not going to inspire a man. The radiance, the openness, there's so much closure, there's so much internal repression that's holding that men are not going to be inspired. And this leads to women not feeling that men are inspired. And so they overstep their own internal boundaries and they pursue, and then they get resentful. Oh, well, I don't feel safe with you. Well, it's you didn't feel safe enough to open in your own. Here's the thing about with women feeling safe with the masculine. If a woman can't open and stand on her own ledge of her own feminine openness with her womb, her heart, and her face, with her pussy and her heart wide open, where she can't feel anyone else but God, if she can't do that, then she's leading with the projection that the masculine doesn't make her feel safe. And most women choose and date from places where they aren't standing on that ledge, and they complain why men aren't making them feel safe. Oh, I don't feel safe with him. Well, you've never felt safe. You don't feel safe to be in your feminine energy. And this is what fucks up polarity. This is what fucks up polarity. That woman didn't have the courage to make the first move. And here's the thing. This gets a little wordy. So women have to have the courage to make the first move. And men need to have the embodiment to recognize a woman that is actually making the first move. An embodied woman will have the courage to make the first move. An embodied man will have the level of attunement, awareness, and embodiment to feel that a woman has actually cultivated her own internal sense of safety with the universe. And he'll be able to recognize it. And this is where sovereign, energetic, masculine men are vetting. They're vetting for women who have made the first move with themselves in the relationship to God. The feminine code goes first. The woman steps to God first, and then the masculine code comes. This is how we heal, and this is how we exchange with the universe. The simplest representation of this is the woman flicking her hair or applying fucking lip gloss at the bar. And he's like, oh, she's interested. So at the bar, she flips her hair, she applies lip gloss. He's like, they're making eye contact. He's like, yes, I have an in. At an energetic and spiritual level, that woman, her version of applying lip gloss is opening her body to God. She's cultivated her own sense of safety. Now there's something biological that happens inside of that man. Now there's something biological that happens inside of that man, where he literally something primal and something ancient is inspired inside of him. In the same way, at a primitive level, the women are weaving baskets and the guy had to take a fucking spear and go hunt dinner. All of a sudden, what happens energetically is he feels like he has a spear. There's an interest. He wants to lead. He wants to guide. So what the masculine energy needs to realize is where he's inspired to lead and where he's not. Because where men are not inspired to lead, right? Or again, that's one version, or there's a contraction or an off-putting. But when he's not inspired to lead, it means there's something biological that is not being inspired inside of him from her and from her feminine form. And this is a very physical, energetic, emotional thing in her feminine body that he's responding to or he's not responding to. He's feeling into everything nonverbal. It's a body-to-body communication, a body-to-body exchange. And what he's looking for actually is that she's well fed and she's well fucked in her relationship to source in the universe. That she doesn't repress herself. She two things. She has discipline to a point, but then she's able to treat herself. Discipline to a point, but she's able to feed herself, nourish herself, enliven herself, make love to herself, be able to fill herself with minerals and nutrients and exactly what her fucking body needs. So she doesn't feel starving, doesn't feel needy. She feels well fucking fed. That's what a man is looking for in a woman, and this is what he's inspired by. And so men are always trying to feel what brings out something primal in him. What brings out something primal in him? Because every man who has a masculine essence has the capacity to be a hunter. He wants to be a hunter. A man feeling like he's a hunter and a killer is a feminine's version of feeling like a lover and feeling radiant. When a man feels in his hunter energy, that's when he feels radiant. And so that's what he's vetting for. Where is that inspired in me? And the more that man's essence is masculine, the more he's going to want to feel a feminine devoured energy. The more he's going to want to feel a radiance. So the more masculine a guy's core essence, the more feminine. So men can look at a lot of like what's their true essence based off what they're really attracted to, what they're really, really drawn to, what they're really masculine guys are going to be really drawn to radiance, really, really fucking drawn to softness. And so, and oftentimes like, so women have to be able to be soft out in the universe before a man arrives, to be nourished, soft and fierce, right? And so that's what he's responding to. And I know women don't like hearing that they go first, but what I really mean is energetically they go first. Energetically they go first. Think about it in a relationship, you guys, polarity in a relationship. Say a man has something he's trying to do in his career, right? And think he talks or has, I'm actually going to shoot this as a sketch or a video at some point to show really, I want to show really healthy polarity and make it fucking hilarious too. But like show these movie scenes that are demonstrating really healthy dynamics, but are fucking hilarious too. But a guy has something he's trying to do in his life. He asks the opinion of his wife or his partner. And she's able to show him a shade of color that he can't see, right? She's able to show him something intuitively that's beyond his awareness, right? That's the feminine code going first. That man's like, oh shit, that's actually amazing. I didn't even see it like that. He's seeing something that more of his linear masculine energy, because men are inherently more linear, she has a depth and a width that she's able to see that he's not able to see. And so she has access to a spectrum of the field that the masculine, I would at least say, has a harder time accessing. The more a man is a male oracle, the wider the field he'll be able to see as well. Like I'm a male oracle, and I can see a pretty wide field. But when I'm around women that are really oracles, like they like real tapped in feminine oracles, like they leave me in the dust, as they should, as I would prefer it. But the feminine has access. Think of feminine energy is wide and open. Masculine energy is narrow and deep. And that's even biological. Like when a woman is childbearing and has a toddler, she has to be able to see a really wide field, right? This comes down to women multitasking and what they call diffuse awareness, right? This is why women can multitask better. It's a wider and a bigger and more open field. Masculine energy is more narrow and deep, right? Think women are an ocean, men are like a rushing river, right? And so in that conversation that guy has in his relationship, that woman gives him insight into something in his business or his career or his mission that he can't see because she can see a wider field than he can. Feminine code goes first in the download. The feminine code always goes first. How this works in relationship to God and source. You sit in prayer and manifestation. God, tell me what to do. God, show me the path. That is a feminine code from God. The next day you go out and you take action. That is the masculine code. The masculine code always comes second. So when that woman in that relationship gives advice or shows this man a greater depth to the field, the next day he incorporates that into his business. That's the masculine code going second. Now, the kingdom that is created by the divine feminine and the divine masculine. But if a man hadn't allowed his own feminine code to go first, he won't be receptive to the feminine oracle. He won't trust her. He has all these mother wounds, all these unhealed relationships with the feminine that he won't allow into his field, compression on the left side. And so this is where toxic masculine, this is where the patriarchy was created. This is where these toxic masculine systems were created. This is where the Bible was created. The Jesus being the neglection of Mary Magdalene. That's how the patriarchy started. It's a neglection that the feminine code goes first. And when we allow the feminine to go first, we allow the receptivity of the feminine oracle and a receptivity relationship with source and God so that we can move into execution, action, and creation from a place of harmonizing masculine and feminine energy. This is the exact same thing as a woman at the fucking bar applying lip gloss. It's the exact same fucking thing as a woman at the bar sees a dude. I like his triceps. He's got a nice face, you know? He's got a fucking leather jacket on. He's got some cool fucking rings. This dude's pretty cool. Starts looking over there. I'm going to apply my lip gloss, play with my fucking hair. That is the same thing as allowing Mary Magdalene into the Bible. It's the exact same fucking thing. That's the exact same thing as opening the feminine form to God first. And then when you really allow that, men are now inspired. Men want to look at feminine energy and be inspired. Not only more inspired for their mission, but inspired to move into more of this primal nature. The more that a man is inspired to move into more of his primal energy, the more he's inspired to be a safe keeper of the feminine. The more he's inspired to be in his masculine. So when women are like, oh, why would I do that? Like, he doesn't deserve that. But then it's funny, they're not willing to do something, but then they complain about the results. I don't feel safe with them. I don't feel, well, you never inspired something out of him. And then you're complaining about the results and your refusal to inspire. The feminine code goes first. When you inspire and elicit something biologically, primally out of a man, he's inspired to be the feminine keeper. So when a woman has a courage to become the radiant inspiration for the masculine, she actually gets her dream. She actually gets what she wants. She actually gets a man that can become a co-creator of her safety and her softening. But she has to be prepared to do it on her own without him. Without him and God is the barometer. Universe is the masculine. When she can do that, she's not projecting. She's living as the embodiment of her power. And now she's moving into a place of selection of partner, dating, vetting, where this woman probably won't even hardly have to fucking date. She's going to be a fucking rocket ship. She's going to be a lighthouse for masculine energy. There's no greater way to tell how men and women are responding to you than who's coming into your field and what quality of people are coming into your field. So as a woman, if you want to take stock of where is my feminine energy at and the true embodiment in my body, take stock of the amount of attention you're getting and the quality of the men of that intention. the quality of the integrity of that intention. For example, for me as a guy, I'll be looking at where I'm at in my masculine energy based off the amount of women that are kind of coming into my field and the quality of the oracles of those women. And so if I have women kind of curious about my space and they're fucking outrageous feminine oracles, ancient oracles, I know I'm in my divine masculine. I know that's happening. And so that becomes the barometer. It's all body to body. Like, think about, you guys, think about all these polarity teachers on the internet. Think about these really surface polarities. Think about it like a men's polarity teacher, but it's really surface. The women that probably follow that are going to be really surface, like they're not going to be feminine oracles. They're going to be women that are more in like a wounded feminine energy. They're not going to be women that are in like an ancient feminine energy, because it becomes proportional to what we're attracting, right? Of what we're drawn to, of what we're interested in. And so you really need to understand who you are, what you're about, what timeline and archetype you're playing in, and then pay attention to who's being drawn to your field and who's not. That's the number one tell. The feminine code always goes first. Even for the man, the feminine internally in a man's process, the feminine goes first. And this is why most men are in their masculine and they're not in their divine masculine. The reason why most men are in their masculine and not in their divine masculine, because they're trying to have their masculine code go before their feminine code. The feminine code always goes first. This is why women always make the first move. Women have to stand on a ledge and inspire some type of primal hunt from a man. And he's surveying the level of inspiration that arises and activates within him. It's not like a sexual sacral thing, but it's a biological. Where does he feel the most in his masculine? And that's going to be a real deep vetting of her energy and how her energy feels and lands in his body, of knowing which direction to move towards. And as a woman, what you do is you take that first step, you stand on that ledge, you open your feminine form, and what you're surveying, the exact thing you're surveying, is where does a man's embodiment of divine masculine codes and the size of his mission of God, where is the man that can take me even deeper that is going to open me even deeper than I've already taken myself? And you're going to feel, what's the size of the spear? What's the size of this spear that this man is trying to hold in his anointation with God and what he's here to do as one of God's messengers? What is the size of that godly sacred spear, the embodiment of his vessel and his channel that he's trying to build something to? What's the size of that? And that's what your openness and your radiance. And so the size of the oracle reveals the size of man's God mission. That's exactly what that exchange is. And that's what both are vetting for if we're doing so from an embodiment, from an embodied, really, really discerning space where we're allowing God to be revealed through us. So the feminine always goes first. The feminine always makes the first move. At a surface, it's woman applying lip gloss in the bar. And at the energetic and spiritual, it's that she's standing on the ledge of her own radiance and openness, where her womb, her heart, and her face are standing in the radiance of her innocence, completely on her ledge. And she's remaining that vulnerable and that open in the total unknown. And a woman's capacity to do that is going to directly reveal the embodiment of her oracle or lack of embodiment. All right, everyone, I'm going to leave this live here. For women, always make the first move. It's what we talked about today. If you guys connect with this, please give this video a like, send it to someone, share it to someone who you feel also might resonate. And if you guys haven't already, please subscribe to my channel so that you can be notified when I go live, when I have new videos dropping, and all those fun things. So for those of you who were here for this live, thank you so much. Your attention is much appreciated. Hope you connected and resonated with some pieces out of this, and wishing everyone a wonderful weekend ahead. Much love, everyone, and we'll see you soon.